Hi friends, hope you are enjoying this FDP on entrepreneurship. Today as a fourth day we are going to see about entrepreneurship critical thinking. So the next slide is what are all the topics we are going to discuss in this session. First one, the the preliminary topics are thinking, the meaning of thinking and also the type of thinking we are going to discuss. And coming to the core content, the critical thinking, the meaning we are going to discuss, nature of critical thinker, how the critical thinker should be, and then entrepreneurial aspects of thinking, and then critical thinking process and critical thinking skills, and the importance or essentials of critical thinking, or some questions to be posed on critical thinking by an individual. And next one is standards of critical thinking, implementation of critical thinking into entrepreneurship. Next one is do's and don'ts of critical thinking. Next one is barriers to critical thinking. The last topic is attitude versus critical thinking. So coming to the preliminary topic, first thing, when we are focusing on critical thinking, first and foremost we must know what is thinking. So thinking, each and every human being has a thinking capacity, but how they are thinking matters a lot. Few people will be thinking without any meaning. Few people will be thinking with a great meaning. Few people will be thinking about the practicality. Few people will be thinking on which will not happen at all. So, how the thinking should be for an individual? A thinking should be an organized process. And also, whatever one human being is thinking, there should be a purpose behind that thinking. So, ultimately, as a resource person, I wanted to pose these questions. When thinking is an element, it is a mental stimulus, right? So, to pose the question, I'll be posing it to you. You just think it on these questions and try to find out the answer by your own. What is the reason of her beauty or his beauty? The next question is why the sky is blue with white patches. We will be seeing, we know, even the kids know, kindergarten students knows about the sky is blue. But white patches are there in sky. We will be finding out, we will be thinking. We in the sense, I'm not talking about the literate people. Illiterate people will be thinking about on those things. Even some literated person also will be thinking why all those sky, white patches are there here and there, which is dense. The next question, who is my inspiration? It is a thinking capacity only. Why am I here? And the next question, why he or she doesn't like me? So there are n number of things to think in our lives, day-to-day lives, minute by minute, second by second, we will be having a thinking about something or someone. So hence the thinking should be done in an organized way, which should have some kind of a common purpose, where that purpose should be achieved by thinking. Next preliminary topic is types of thinking. Once any individual is having a very good thinking capacity, ultimately that fellow will be molded in a very good way, because thinking is a base where it will reflect in terms of action. Hence, there are two broad types of thinking. One is critical thinking and the other one is creative thinking. First and foremost, we will discuss about creative thinking. What is creative thinking? Creative thinking in the sense, whenever any individual is thinking in the context of business, that individual is called as an entrepreneur, right? Whenever he thinks about his business, ultimately he will be thinking in a fresh perspective, whichever is stimulated by unstructured process. Unstructured process in the sense which is not in an organized way, that can happen with the help of brainstorming. And also, creative thinking might happen with the help of structured process too. Structured process here in the sense it can be done in an organized methodology which is called as lateral thinking. Here we are using the term called lateral thinking, which the meaning is solving a problem by creative approach. So in business there are chances of having n number of problems. So being an entrepreneur, he should be focused all 360-degree and he should think always in order to solve the problem, not only for his benefit but also the other benefit of stakeholders too. Benefit in the sense it should be 360-degree beneficiary should be there. That is for the company, for an entrepreneur, and also for the stakeholders in order to run the business in a smoother way. And coming to the main core content of our FDP is critical thinking. Critical thinking, ultimately it will be very critical thing by an individual. It is a capacity or a skill we can talk about. Critical thinking makes one individual perfect and always try to be unique. So in a business, ultimately these two thinking are essential. One is creative thinking and the other one is critical thinking. Both these thinking capacity makes an entrepreneur. Not only an entrepreneur, any kind of an individual to anticipate or to predict or to project current and future settings by analyzing the past. Whatever happened in the past, by considering all those things, he can think or project or forecast what will happen for the current position and also how our thing will be in the future. It will be decided with the help of critical thinking. Ultimately, these two thinking capacity will aim to solve the problem, and also it will energize an individual or the entrepreneur in order to make a decision in a perfect way. Right. Critical thinking, I explained you the fresh meaning of critical thinking. So there are certain things to be done under critical thinking. What are all the things in the sense? First one is analyzing, evaluating and reasoning. You all know the meaning, anyhow we will be discussing in the further slides about all those things. And next one, we will be getting into a core content of FDP, that is called as critical thinking. What do you mean by critical thinking? As I explained you already, it is a thinking capacity of one individual who thinks in a critical way, or one individual thinks critically. Blindly, if we ask what is critical thinking, people will say such statement. But if we probe into a real meaning of critical thinking, a critical thinking is an organized process where one individual will not, one entrepreneur will not accept any kind of arguments or any kind of the solutions given by the others, where he or she will be posing n number of questions, valid questions. We have to underline that word, valid questions, in order to get evidence for those questions. Because critical thinking is a skill. As I represented earlier, critical thinking is a skill where one individual will not simply accept any kind of an argument, and also he will not solicit blindly the solutions or the conclusions. But after posing several questions only, he will think whether to accept all those suggestions, recommendations, arguments or conclusions, whatever it is. Hence, a wide range of cognitive and intellectual skill is needed for critical thinking. When we talk about critical thinking, it is not a simple thing at all. When we say take entrepreneurs only, in all the entrepreneurs are critical thinkers, we cannot assure that, because some entrepreneurs will be facing failures in their business. How come it is happening? When An entrepreneur is a critical thinker. It is very strong that they will never have a problem because they will be anticipating the current and also they will be forecasting the future in by analyzing the past. Hence, okay, and it is very important note to be noticed. A critical thinking is a fortunate skill. It is a gift. Okay, so a critical thinking is a fortunate skill for an entrepreneur. So we are talking about entrepreneurship here. So I am making it as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry. I'm making it as an entrepreneur. But this critical thinking is a gift for everyone who is possessing that skill. Because when you pose several questions, you will come to know more things to you. Right? When you guys are asking few questions to me, what I don't know, I will come to know by probing your questions to find out the answer. This is the gap which is filling it. Which is filling in the sense critical thinking is filling this particular gap. And next one is, we discussed about critical thinking. How the critical thinker will be, we are going to discuss in the next slide. Nature of critical thinker. How critical thinker will be. A critical thinker, as I told you, critical thinking is a gift or it is a fortunate skill. Whenever an entrepreneur or an individual is having a critical thinking capacity, he or she will be always seeing things in a fresh perspective, or he will be seeing things in a new way, and he will be posing questions without pressurizing others, without threatening others. There won't be any kind of threat from the side of critical thinker, and also it will be very, very, very calm way he or she will be posing questions in order to get evidence from the people who are recommending or giving suggestion or giving conclusion. So blindly anyone can tell something, but what is the proof? Where is the validity for all those things? It is a question mark. So this critical thinking fills up all those gaps. And next, a critical thinker will be seeing solutions always by asking innovators. Innovator in the sense, we all know that what is innovation. Innovation in the sense something new which is not available so far. Right? So a thinking capacity will mold the thinker in order to collaborate with the innovators. And last one is, it is a way dealing with problems instead of attacking persons who's trying to be innovative. Always critical thinker wants to face a problem in a smooth way. A critical thinker will be acting very freely. Whatever he wants to do, he will be doing for the right cause. He won't be disturbing others, where he will be doing his own task for the benefit of the others. That is very much important for the critical thinker. All these comes under the nature of critical thinker. And next one, we discussed about critical thinker, how the critical thinker will be. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, in an entrepreneurial activity, for entrepreneurs, what are all the aspects are there under thinking? That when we are going to discuss. So there are two main aspects. One is technical aspects and the other one is practical aspect. What is technical aspect? Technical aspect in the sense, whenever you see the problem which is visible, right? Whenever you see that particular problem, you are coming forward to solve that problem. But without your knowledge, so many problems will be there in your organization, right? So technical aspect will be focusing on the issues or the things whichever they can see and feel. It is called as technical aspect of thinking. And practical aspect of thinking in the sense, whatever the problem which are coming without the knowledge of an entrepreneur, right? So those kind of problems will be focused by an entrepreneur under practical aspect. The problem will be hidden under practical aspect. But what will happen in the technical aspect? All the problems will be very clear and visible. Now you just think over, technical aspect is greater or practical aspect is greater? Here we can have a debatable topic also. Here, technical aspect gives a solution whichever is visible for others, whichever is visible for an entrepreneur. But practical aspect which covers the hidden problem where entrepreneur have to think about 360-degree for the benefit of the organization and also for the stakeholders. Here, we can say that technical aspect comes under the phenomena of creative thinking. And also, practical aspect will be coming under the phenomena of critical thinking. We cannot say that only critical thinking is necessary. We don't want, entrepreneur doesn't require creative thinking. If entrepreneur have creative thinking alone, he did not possess critical thinking. Whether he can shine in his business? Certainly not. Whereas, he is having practical aspect. He is thinking all over, whichever is hidden, he is observing that, he is focusing on that, he is solving that. Whether he can shine in his business? Surely he can shine. But without creativity, can he shine? It is a question mark. So henceforth, for a successful business, entrepreneur should have an entrepreneurial thinking capacity of technical thing and also practical aspect. It is the combination of both the things, technical aspect and also the practical aspect, which is required for an entrepreneur in order to make success for his business. And the next slide is process. Process means we all know it is a step-by-step methodology. Method is different. Method means it is a technique. Methodology means it is a sequence where we have to follow. The entrepreneur have to follow. So, when we see all these steps, how many steps are there? There are 5 steps are there. First one is observation. Next one, communication. Third one is problem solving, inference, analysis. The first step we call it as observation. Mere observation will not make an entrepreneur to think in a critical way. How he can think? By merely observing. See, if someone is observing the purchasing behavior in a retail outlet or in a shopping mall, suppose salesperson is observing. When sales girl is observing any customer, how he or she is purchasing, in the sense, the buyer will be having certain capacity. He will be thinking something and he will be continuing with her shopping. But what happens to that sales girl who is noticing? There are chances to come with the wrong conclusion also. In order to strengthen that, after observation, the second thing is communication. Communication, we all know that horizontal communication is there, vertical communication is there. Being an entrepreneur, only horizontal communication gives a helpful hand. No. Communication, in the sense, it is a combination of all direction of communication which is required. Which means upward communication is essential, where top to bottom the authority flows from top to bottom. The information also flows from top to bottom. We cannot say that always top to bottom flows of information will be correct. Even because the low hand people, the clerical people will be the one who will be working. Where the top level people will be sitting under AC room. Being an entrepreneur, you can give a command, your subordinates. But the problem is that all direction of communication should be taken place, which is called as downward communication also will be effective at certain point of time. And then all kinds of communication, interpersonal communication, intrapersonal communication. What is interpersonal communication? The communication between entrepreneur and the stakeholders we can pinpoint here. And what is intra-communication? Whenever any entrepreneur is making any kind of a presentation in front of many people, many professionals in the sense, his presentation should be done in an attractive way, or else nobody will be ready to hear his presentation. Suppose if he wants to express his business ideas, how to expand his business after 6 years. So his idea should contain some valid point where the listener should listen with full interest, and also some kind of will be solicited from the listener's point also. And being a critical thinker, an entrepreneur must have problem solving capacity. We all know what is problem solving, we all know what is problem first. Once the problem is known, ultimately half of the problem will be solved. When entrepreneur doesn't know what the problem is, what the actual problem is, then he will be fighting with himself what is the problem. Hence it is the utter question, what is the problem? Once he is having a clear idea about the problem, he will be taking n number of steps. I mean, here I am mentioning about the critical thinker, who is the entrepreneur. He will be solving a problem in a smooth way which will not affect any people, subordinates, peers, colleagues, competitors, creditors, government, suppliers, everyone. We call them as stakeholders. And then inference. What is inference? Suppose he is observing, he is communicating, he is problem solving. Who? The critical thinker or the entrepreneur? Entrepreneur should be a critical thinker. I mean to say that. So here entrepreneur, when he is inferring something, whatever happened practically, he will be taking some kind of inference from that situation or from that incident. And taking that inference, he will be going for analyzing. When after inferring something, ultimately that inference will be giving an idea how to take the analysis. By adopting certain tools for analysis, with discussion with expert or discussion with the researchers, by discussing with the researchers will be giving more valid outcome. So by practicing all these steps, all these methodology, an entrepreneur can able to develop his business. So all these 5 steps will be leading to business development. We discussed about all the prior level of critical thinking. Now coming to the middle level of critical thinking, what are all the skills an entrepreneur or the critical thinker must possess, we will be discussing in the next slide. So what are all the skills in the sense? Here also there are 5 skills. So there is a difference between skills and the process. So here we discussed about the Here we discussed about the process, and the next slide we are going to discuss about the skill. Process, I told you, it is a methodology. What do you mean by skill? It is a capacity of an individual entrepreneur. Okay, so here being an entrepreneur or being a critical thinker, what are all the skills of those particular critical thinker we are going to discuss here. We all know that monopoly, duopoly, oligopoly and all it is there. But always a successful entrepreneur wants to attain a positioning in the market, which means monopoly position. Only one person. When we consider a forest, forest means who's the king of the forest? Only lion. Okay, only lion will be the forest. Lion will be the king of the forest. All the animals should be hearing the words comes from the king, who is called as lion. So henceforth, to be unique, he or she, entrepreneur or critical thinker, must possess certain skills. What are all the skills he should possess, he or she? First one, he should reason, find out a reasoning. A reason should be always justifiable. That reasoning should be always valid reason. He should not give just for namesake. Whatever reasoning for his business, in order to develop it, he should find out the valid reason and also give suggestion. After reasoning, ultimately he will be analyzing. When the reason is there, after analyzing the reason, what will happen? Suppose I am telling you this is the reason. Okay, I am not having any skill to analyze what it is. Can I outsource? Yes, I have the rights to outsource because I don't have that much knowledge in order to analyze the reason, because I need to get proper evidence. Statistically, it should be proved. So, hence, can outsource. I can get the help from the researcher. So, based on analyzing, he will be thinking or evaluating. So, after analyzing, evaluation will be done. After evaluation, he should consider the problem can be solved. So, it is interlinked. Here, the interlinked is not in the right process. First one will be coming as reason, and next one analyzing. Number 3, evaluating. After evaluating, he will be aiming to solve the problem whichever is happening in his organization. Okay. Once the problem is solved, he is fit to take decision which will benefit all for the business environment. Always business will be having some kind of competitors. We cannot say some now in today's trend. For many business, n number of competitors are there. In order to be unique, you have to be a critical thinker. Ultimately, which will give you a proof actually. So, suppose this diagram, 2 lines I have put. One lion is called as a king. The other lion is called as the critical thinker or critical thinking capacity. Why I have put again lion for critical thinking capacity in the sense? Because everything should be done in a new way. Hence, it should dominate others from doing all those things. So, the intersection points you can see here, the tail portion of lines, 2 lines intersection point, which means an entrepreneur and the critical thinking capacity which is intersecting can able to attain successful in his business. So always when an entrepreneur is possessing all these skills, ultimately he can act as a lion in the business market. This entrepreneur can act as a lion. He can act as a market leader. He can act as a monopoly where he can beat up all his competitors in a unique way by being critical thinking skills. See, again you might ask some questions. All these skills are inbuilt or it should be developed? Surely some entrepreneurs by birth only they will be having highly talented, they will be having a highly potential skill within themselves. But for many entrepreneurs, for many common people, they try to learn through practice. That is very much important. For critical thinking, it is one of the fortunate skill as I mentioned you earlier. Critical thinking he or she should follow or practice in his day-to-day business lives. And the next slide, which represents, it is, as I told you, critical thinking is a highly debatable topic when I discussed about aspects, technical aspect and practical aspect, which is a debatable topic in the business market. Now, there is a question from my end. Why critical thinking is essential? Why everyone is talking about critical thinking? Why? Because it is very much needed in the business. Why it is very much needed? In order to generate new ideas, this critical thinking is essential. And next, critical thinking is very much important for business development. As I told you, all the process, whatever we discussed in the slides, whatever the 5 process which helps to attain the business development. Similarly, what will happen in the sense, once every entrepreneur is having a critical thinking capacity, or any entrepreneur who is having this critical thinking capacity can aim to develop his own business. in a positive way, right? There is a question: develop a business by exploiting others, which is a very much valid question. How come? Developing a business by exploiting others, in the sense it is not in an ethical way. A critical thinker mainly focusing to do the business without exploiting others. Ethics will be followed very strictly by the critical thinker, right? Okay, once any entrepreneur are considered as a critical thinker, suppose you yourself take as an entrepreneur as an example. When you are a critical thinker, then your business and life can be transformed very practically and positively. When I talk about business, we all know about what is business. Business means it is any kind of a activity. Business means to keep oneself busy. That is called as busyness, business. So, in a business market, in a domestic market or global market, whatever we take, people involved in business for profit. Even individual involved in business. Once we wake up in the morning till night, we do some kind of an activity where we keep ourselves very much busy. Henceforth, we ourselves are called as an entrepreneur, but we work for profit. Yes. How come profit? Only in terms of money? No. In terms of fame, in terms of name, in terms of goodwill, right? All these we are expecting in order to boost ourselves and transform ourselves positively towards others. So, hence, each individual common person also is called as an entrepreneur. And being a critical thinker, right? A critical thinker always boosts others who is working inside the organization, his subordinates, the other departmental people, and the vendors, suppliers, which they will be supporting each and every individual person. They will be focusing on. Why they are focusing on and boosting themselves? Because when we motivate someone, ultimately their interest will be rapidly increasing in order to contribute their effort towards the organization. So always this critical thinking will be very much important, which is acting as a positive tool in order to boost or motivate ourselves, one individual entrepreneur or others, and aim for business profit. Now here, there is a concept. Whatever I explained you so far under this question, there is a concept. The concept name is called as IBDP BP. Here everyone will be saying BP will be increasing by saying this. What is IBDPP in the sense? I meant for ideas, which is the first point. New ideas can be generated by the critical thinker. So, hence critical thinking is essential, which is called as I. BD in the sense business development is considered as essential one, which can be done with the help of critical thinking. BD. And P in the sense where critical thinking converts one individual entrepreneur to think in a positive way. So, positivity will be there, and BP in the sense it is business profit. So, shortly, all these things, it is like a mantra only for an entrepreneur. IBD, PBP. Okay. So, you can remember like this, and you can able to narrate even with your students, where it is a teacher's responsibility in order to tune these students like an entrepreneur. As our universe, our country is expecting to create many startups, where many startups will be enabling our country in order to improve our economic stability. Sustainability also can be attained with the help of converting our economy into entrepreneurial economy. And the next slide, I'll be posing question now. You think on yourselves whether you are a critical thinker. You ask yourself, am I a critical thinker? Yes. If you find yes true to your heart, if you feel yes, you maintain the same. If you feel like I don't ask any question, whomever says something to me, I am ready to accept all those things. In that case, you are not a critical thinker. In that case, try to develop this habit. How you can develop the habit? In the sense, you have to pose the questions. All WH type, H type questions you have to pose. What is WH type questions? WH in the sense, what, why, when, where, who. What am I doing? Why am I doing this to you and to my business? For whom I am doing this business? Where am I doing this business? When am I doing this business? All these 5 WH questions plays a very major role. Whomever is asking or telling you to do something, you pose question based on WH type questions. And also you give very much important on H type questions, that is called as how. When you ask how, you tell me, in the sense many people will not give back their original answer. They try to escape from you because many people doesn't know the answer for how. Once you know the answer of how, you become the expert. Very simple. So you can think that being a critical thinker is very, very difficult. Not at all. When anyone is telling you something, you keep on posing them, not in a simple way but in a valid point. You have to keep in your mind, you have to pose valid questions which should not pressurize the opponent person, which should not hurt the opponent person. No intimidations will be there. Smoothly you are maintaining the relationship where you are improving your rapport also, and you are getting some new ideas also for your business. And then, to be a critical thinker, by following or adopting critical thinking, we should attain some standards. What is that standard? In the sense, intellectual standards. As I told you, critical thinking is a mental stimulus which will help any kind of an individual to think in a rational way. So, when we say some kind of a standards, ultimately there are some intellectual standards which has to be aimed for. Clarity, where one information should be very clear. Accuracy, whatever one person is telling, that information should be accurate enough. Precision in the sense how specifically one information is passed out. Relevance, when you are asking something, whether whatever answer you are receiving from others is it relevant to your question. Depth, whether any complexities are there, to what extent it is there. Depth we have to analyze it on. And then breadth also you have to analyze the issues and the necessary relationship you will be finding on. The next thing is logic in the sense to what extent you can arrive at the conclusion. And significance in the sense how much important it is there in order to raise your hand to help the others by giving proper valid information. Fairness in the sense to what extent am I able to avoid privileging my own biases. Each and even a critical thinker will be having their own bias, but it should be avoided and take fair decision. So all these are intellectual standards, where 9 intellectual standards to be attained with the help of critical thinking. And next one, how to implement critical thinking into business. I gave you the introduction of business. Business means not only a business people, but also a common man can be a role in the business. So first one, listen carefully of others' ideas and ask for recommendations. When they are telling something, can you give recommendation for this? In the sense, they will stop their conversation. They won't speak up further. That should be avoided. Do not be scared to implement your ideas. And do not be intimidated to implement good ideas. Intimidated in the sense you not to worry for anything. Not to give pressure to you and also for others. Not to be hurted. Not to feel afraid. So everything will be calling us intimidation or intimidate. Next one is try to work with your business team for all new ideas. So being an entrepreneur, I'm the boss. Whatever I say, you have to follow. That should be avoided first. If you are avoiding it, many people will come up voluntarily in order to share their opinion. That should be there by the critical thinker. Do not ever avoid new ideas, but talk to them. When you talk to them, more and more ideas will be generated. Many people are good in ideas but lazy in implementing them. Many people are there in this universe, but some professionals are good in devising critical strategies but not good in implementation. See, if one is there, others won't be there. If the other things are there, one thing will not be there. So one individual cannot take decision on his own without consulting others. So all these parts should be adopted. Next one is do not fail to check that there is a budget plan to implement that new idea. So after you receive proper evidence from others, whomever is giving some kind of a suggestions or conclusions or recommendations, you have to think over. Being an entrepreneur, your company is having surplus fund in order to execute that idea in the future. So that should be kept in your mind. So like this, you can implement all these critical thinking into your business growth. And next, what are all the things you can do in critical thinking? What are all the things you should not do in critical thinking? Whereas critical thinking, when we talk about critical thinking, positive side here, this side, negative side. Under positive side, it is probing or asking critical questions, making synthesis and connecting information, evaluating the credibility of evidence, considering multiple opinions, stakeholders, and solutions, using fair and logic reasoning. So when we see all these positive aspects, ultimately it is giving a proper valid picture how the critical thinker should be. When we focus on the negative side, when we talk about negative side, critical thinking is merely criticizing others, which should not be happen at all. And just having an opinion can be a critical thinking is adopted only to have an opinion? No. And being vehemently one-sided. See, you should not be arrogant. I'm saying this, whatever I said, that is true. You should not say like that, because you are a critical thinker in the sense you should give both the sides equal treatment should be given. Which is avoided in the sense being vehemently one-sided should be completely avoided. And next, merely comprehending text, opinion or issue. When you are texting someone, when you are sharing opinion to someone, when you are trying to solve issue someone of someone's issue, in the sense ultimately you should give. In your family there is a fight. Common example I'm telling you. In your family there is a fight between your brother and sister. So ultimately what will happen? You are the mid person who will be the moderator. You have to analyze all the skills, you have to use it. You have to follow the process. If you are a critical thinker, you have to undergo all these steps. That's why I told you all these will not suitable only for the business, which is for profit, and also to the common man also it is applicable. And then being logically unsound and unfair should be completely avoided. So focusing on positive side will make you to shine always. Critical thinker. And the next slide is barriers to critical thinking. When we talk about barriers, it is a stumbling block. So there are 5 barriers: egocentrism, sociocentrism, unwarranted assumptions, wishful thinking, relativistic thinking. What is egocentrism? Egocentrism in the sense you will be having with the help of complexity also will be there. Whatever I say, that is final. That should be avoided. It is self-centered thinking, self-interested thing, self-serving bias. It should be completely avoided. Sociocentrism. It is socio in the sense in a group, whatever you are trying to dominate others, that should be avoided. That is group bias, conformism. Unwarranted assumption. Unwarranted assumption in the sense when anyone is giving some valid suggestion, you will say okay in front of them, but when you come separately, who is he to tell all those things? I am the right to take decisions. So whatever I say, that should be final. That should be completely avoided. Wishful thinking. You should allow your company people in order to think on their own and to suggest some ideas. And relativistic thinking. Relativistic thinking in the sense, see, based on community also, people will be thinking in a different way. Based on caste, they will be thinking in a different way. Based on their culture, they will be thinking in a different way. Based on subjectivism, they will be thinking in a different way. For example, in your company, in a production department, if there is any issue in the sense, will any of the department can come and solve the issue? No. Only the production people will be knowing their technicalities, and accordingly they will be finding out where the problem is lying, and they will be taking their effort in order to solve that issue. So all these barriers, if an entrepreneur is overcoming with the help of critical thinking in the sense, right, he can able to attain success. Once critical thinking, as I told you, it is a positive way. There are some negative ways which we discussed in the previous slide. All the negativity should be avoided. If they are avoiding under these things, ultimately they can able to attain the success in their business. And next slide is attitude versus critical thinking. There is a close relationship, close association between attitude and critical thinking. When we talk about an attitude, it is a feel about someone or something. When we talk about attitude, there are two broad classifications of attitude. One is positive attitude and the other one is negative attitude. Positive attitude in the sense, whomever is thinking, their mental stimulus will be always bright side. They will speak for the bright side, which is the right part. They will be speaking. They will be supporting. What is negative? Under positive attitude, whomever is acting as a having a positive attitude, they will be calling as optimistic person. Who is having negative attitude, that fellows are called as pessimistic person. Where the negative attitudinal people, they will find fault with someone. Whatever the others do, they will find fault with those things. Whatever that particular fellow says, that is right. Whatever others are doing, everything is wrong. Nobody can say blindly, right? So I want to tell you here, for an individual, your blood group can be negative, but your mind should not be negative. So always you should have some positive attitude in order to attain this critical capacity. And also I would like to highlight one principle which is called as BCD principle into life or business. What is BCD principle in the sense? B means birth, D means death, where C represents choice. So we all know that we have a very short life, which is up to 80 years. 80 is maximum, 60 is okay, 60 to 70 is okay. So in between, for this 70 years, what you have done for the betterment of the others is a question mark. You are having a choice, that is called as C here, right? So being a critical thinker, choose a right option in order to shine yourself between your birth and death always. I hope you all understood about the content of critical thinking, at least quarter part, and I hope everyone have to enjoy with these content and practice in your day-to-day life. Thank you very much for listening this session. Thank you, all the very best.